Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head-to-head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series. In officially licensed cars, engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com.
Welcome one, welcome all to SimSpeed TV for the next round in the GR Buttkicker Cup here on the iRacing service, the official series racing in the Toyota GR86 Cup. We are at Daytona International Speedway at a layout that we don't often see. It's the Moto layout. I don't think I've ever commentated a broadcasted race on this layout of the track before, and of all series, it's going to be in the Toyota 86s. Really looking forward to seeing how this one turns out here on YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, and Kick. It's me, Reese Gardner, with Scott Rankin alongside me in the comms box, Jay Kennedy, still recovering from illness. Get well soon, Jay. Behind the scenes in production. Oh, Scott, Daytona Moto. What an interesting layout this one is. Takes quite a few different routes to what we're used to.
Yeah, and I think it's actually on the older layout of Daytona as well. So it's what you're going to see is just a whole bunch of back section of the roads that really don't necessarily normally get used. It's got a lot of really tight corners, a lot of corners where there's sort of, you could use second gear, but you probably should use first, but you can't get back to first until right as soon as you want to get onto the accelerator. It's all about balance in that midsection of the car. Unusually, you're going to find a lot of corners around this track in the 86 that swing the rear end of the car out. Why? Because they're exceptionally low speed, and that weight transfers so slow at those speeds, and you can diff lock if you downshift to first or too quickly. So it's going to be really about balance. The first couple laps are incredibly sketchy, and then it becomes a draft battle. It's really tight, intricate, difficult. It's a lovely layout. It's something alternate. I'm a big person for using alternate layouts.
Yeah, me too. It's something that I've been looking forward to since I first found out that this was on the schedule for this season. First couple of turns are basically the same as they are on the main road course layout, but then we take a little bit of a tighter line through the infield and introduce a chicane into a sort of double hairpin section at 7 and 8, and then you're back onto the regular road course layout after turn 9. It will be interesting to see how much practice the drivers have been doing for this particular week of the series, and whether or not they'll accidentally try to take the main layout of the circuit. There's certainly a possibility, especially in the lower splits. But here's the format for tonight. In the middle of our 8-minute qualifying session where every driver gets 2 laps to put themselves on the grid for a 15-minute sprint race with changeable weather. Rain is not forecast for this particular week, but you never know.
I'd say it's not. From everything that I've looked at this week, I was getting excited there might be potential with rain. This would be a very difficult track out to deal with rain, particularly in that low lane on the bank sections. That's not very easy to navigate whatsoever. So I'm actually kind of glad that there is no rain. I think the racing will actually benefit. It's one of the few tracks where I think, having rain is probably not a really good idea. And it makes me think about, oh, gee, what's going to happen when we get to the Daytona 24 next year?
Yeah, it makes me think as well. The banking with rain is certainly a scary possibility. But here's the weather as it is now. Very foggy, very overcast in the session at the moment. But 21 degree air temperature, track temperature only a degree warmer than that. So in these cars with some pretty low grip tires relatively, and in a chassis that likes to flick on you, that's certainly going to be some trouble for the drivers.
I mean, we always talk about it with this car, don't we? It's balance. It's about keeping the weight on the right areas. Quite commonly, you can get the inside tire actually up and off the ground in the rear of the car, completely and utterly unloaded. So it's about balance. It's about poise. At least the track through the infield is incredibly flat. That's one of the big benefits. No rise, no fall in terms of things that direction. But that then says you've got to use a lot more of the brakes to really turn the car. You've got to pivot it correctly. Picking up the infield corners have just about no markers as well. It is very, very difficult to pick up your braking zones. It actually takes you somewhere in around the realm of 10 to 15 laps to pick out a braking marker, because you go, okay, well, it's about here. Put my foot on the brake. No, that was way too early. Okay, next lap, I'll go significantly deeper. No, that was now too late. It's very, very difficult to pick out a marker. Once you get it, it's a really, really good track. It flows very well. It's tough. It is technical. Low speed corners as well. It does have a horseshoe in it. It's not the same horseshoe as we normally see on the Daytona road course layout as well. So hey, so much about the only section of the track that's normal to everyone is the bus stop all the way through to the start finish line, turn 1, turn 2. Other than that, it's a completely different layout.
Yeah, and we're seeing plenty of drivers from around the Oceania and Asia regions competing, Declan Ward being one of the ones from the Asia Club. We've also got 2 drivers from the Iberia Club in the session as well, Hector Tabares Aha and Javi Paricio Pera. Will be interesting to see how they do in a server that I would imagine is either Euro or thereabouts, to balance out the sheer amount of different nationalities we see competing. Anyway, here's the grid for the race. Marlon McMullen and Mitchell McLeod are your front row. That's certainly a front row that I would have expected to see about 10, 11 years ago. Awesome to see it now. Matthew Brunt and Declan Ward are going to start 3rd and 4th. Interesting to see that it's only a few tenths separating them from the front row, only 200ths between them. Sam Devantier is going to start alongside Max Walton, and then we have Mark Taylor and Brett Selby-Wood behind them, 7th and 8th. Our top 10 will be rounded out by Christopher Stange and Michael Cullen. And then we have the first of our Iberians. Hector Aha is going to line up in 11th place alongside Peter Vanderberg. Martin Geyer is going to start in 13th alongside Javi Pera, with Brad Minchell in 15th place, last driver to set a qualifying time. Marcus Cook was not able to set a lap during qualifying. Let's see how he does, starting from the very rear of the grid. Slipstream is going to be very important here, and I think trying to get into the verge of that slipstream is going to be one of the defining aspects of the first few laps of this race.
Getting his car balanced, getting the tires up to temperature. I've actually done a couple races of this already this week, and one of the big things was you're going to see a lot of weaving trying to generate tire temperature. One of the big attributes of this 86, I mean, you see it quite commonly across most of the cars, but the 86 in particular, we've already discussed how the really, really unloaded rear end in terms of this thing. Don't forget, key factor of the car is that unmovable 50% brake bias, so equal pressure in terms of the brake being distributed to all 4 tires as well. Cold tires, that is a disastrous combination. You've really got to make sure that you survive the first lap in terms of building that tire temperature whilst balancing the car. Combine into that all the slow corners we've already talked about is actually diabolical on that first lap around here. So sometimes it might just be, look, have that 3/4 of a second, you know, slower in that first lap, but maintain the draft, build that tire temperature, but keep yourself safe. The bus stop, you can go too wide through it. I absolutely would not. I would prefer to just follow somebody else through, and I've seen some huge accidents as a result of that.
Yeah, I've seen plenty of accidents myself, both from the commentators and the driver's seat, from people trying to go side by side through there. Often better to just stay behind and make sure you complete the move into turn 1 if you're able to. Just focus on the exit. Either way, drivers testing out their braking capabilities here and potentially having a few practice runs off the start here. It is a rolling start behind the iRacing controlled pace car. Let's see what Declan Ward can do. He'll have eyes on the pole position car there of Marlon McMullen over on the left of your screen to see when he decides to put the power down. Mitchell McLeod, the car directly ahead. The number 3 of Matthew Brunt, very successful in this series. He'll be looking for another win out of this one. Green flag flies, and we are away in the GR Buttkicker Cup here at Daytona Moto. McMullen will lead into turn 1, but it's a good start from Matthew Brunt. He is on the brakes a little earlier than McLeod, but still has the inside line for turn 1, as that's a big slide for Mark Taylor. Ends up taking 2 other cars out with him, Brett Selby-Wood and Michael Cullen too. Looks like Harvey Pera is also dealing with some heavy damage, unless that was a bit of dust being dragged by him rather than a blown engine. But a clean start for the rest of the field as they make their way through the first of our hairpins here. And looks like the map that I worked with to create the track map is actually wrong. It's the normal international horseshoe rather than the cut to the inside. But Max Walton's still carrying some heavy damage. I don't think we're going to be seeing much more of him out of this race. Leaders, though, almost to the end of the infield.
It's really interesting. In terms of the last couple of weeks, we've seen a fair bit of Mark Taylor, Matthew Brunt, obviously, and Brett Selby-Wood over the last couple of rounds in terms of this series. I get the feeling that for both Brett Selby-Wood and Mark Taylor, they would prefer to be in splits that we're not commentating. It seems that every time we're looking at them, they're sideways, they're backwards, they're not going in the right direction. So I'm pretty sure those guys want to stay as far away from us as possible.
Yeah, I would imagine. Looks like our top 5 group have broken away here. This is Marcus Cook leading the battle for 6th place on back. Cook having an absolutely fantastic start, by the way. Remember, he started down in 16th place. He was the last car on the grid, and now he's fighting for a position in the top 6. Of course, he's not going to have a good run out of the bus stop. That is Christopher Stange and Hector Aja making their way past him, bump drafting along the oval, but immediately flicking back in line is Marcus Cook to try and get some extra speed here, coming onto the start-finish stretch through the tri-oval to complete the first lap of the race.
Yeah, I tell you what, it's 2x2 in this pack as well. So there's more moves being thrown just a little bit further back. It was Peter Vanderberg and I believe it was Bradley Minshall that was side by side. 3 wide as they come down to turn number 1. Just in the background of that shot, they'll funnel it into 2. And still looking for the overtake is Hector Aja, who's going to try and go around the outside now when they get down here to turn 4. And the horseshoe, but that lead group of 5 still pretty single filed out. Declan Ward ran a reasonable lap, but he's falling a little bit off the back end. He's got to have a very, very strong midfield to stay with this lead bunch, but it's going to be pack racing that we see here.
Certainly is. This is what happened to Mark Taylor. Oh, he got bumped. Got bumped by the Cocoa Pops entry, and unfortunately, that is going to absolutely ruin the races of 2 other drivers. So I think no fault of Mark Taylor's. He was just trying to get that thing recovered on the grass after being bumped sideways on the way into the first corner.
I reckon that might have been a downshift by Max Walton in the Cocoa Pops car, and that's what's kicked the rear end down. It's difficult. We mentioned, you know, how tricky it is, and for Max, his race is almost necessarily over. Get the fast repair, we'll get back out there, but there'll be no drafts to help him out. It's going to be down to these front group of cars. Interesting thing you can do with the car and the banking as well is that if you get really, really close to the car in front of you in terms of draft as you come out of the bus stop, you can swing to the high side of the banking. It'll kill the draft, but you'll maintain a lot of momentum through the banked corner. Swing back down late. Once you've opened that gap up, you get a huge overspeed and you can actually complete the pass without stalling out in terms of aero. 6th gear, by the way, in these cars, only usable in the draft on this front straight. You cannot get out of 5th without that toe.
Yeah, such is the nature of these cars. They just can't reach that level of speed as we're on board here with Sam Devantier. This is one of the fastest tracks that the 86ers visit, usually much shorter tracks with shorter straights, not quite able to get up to these speeds. These cars are momentum cars in the corners, really. They have a lot to play for in terms of their chassis. Meanwhile, Well, looks like things are looking stable here at the front, but certainly a bit more unstable in that mid-pack we were following. Marcus Cook was leading on the way out of the infield as Christopher Stange gets to the inside of Hector Aja. Looks like Hector saw him coming from a mile back. Very good heads-up driving from the DeWalt entry, but yeah, I don't think there's much more he'll be able to do, because now they're in the braking zone for this chicane. Such an interesting twisty section. Bump from the rear. Christopher Stange is sent wide by Marcus Cook. There's a spin in the back. Meanwhile, Peter Vanderberg around, and also Bradley Minshall.
Bradley Minshall lost on his own. I'm pretty sure that Peter Vanderberg got bumped whilst trying to avoid that one in terms of things. So that's just unfortunate. It was Xavi Pera who was trying to take a void. Oh, it was netcode. It was a pretty bad netcode as well. That's unfortunate in terms of things as well. So that's Minshall going around. That's Vanderberg. And then you just see him just get snapped around. There was pretty much daylight between those two cars. Such is one of the difficulties of an international field sometimes.
Yeah, it's something that every sim racer will have to deal with at some point as Stange gets past Cook into the bus stop, but that's not bad news for Marcus Cook. He'll be able to work his way in the slipstream here. Maybe if Martin Gaia gets a run on him, he'll be able to use him to vault his way even further forward. Battle further back here, Harvey Pera, Brett Selby-Wood, Mark Taylor, and Michael Cullen, all drivers that have had issues in the first couple of laps. They are fighting for the positions just outside the top 10.
It's difficult back up at the front as well. And I mean, these guys are just going at it on the run down to turn one, and it's going to be around the outside for Ward. He tried to get this place off of Sam Devantier, but Devantier is holding pretty stoutly. And I mean, he's sitting in the right spot. I think he's just waiting for his opportunity, and you can see it. They're not really able to close massively down the straight, tight overtaking for 6th and 7th spot. And again, it's Aja going toe-to-toe with Cook this time. Oh, Selby Wood again.
Oh no, he's had a big problem at turn one. Don't know what's going on for him there, but he's going to lose out a lot in this. Let's see what happened. Did he get contact from behind? Got on the brakes. Oh, he's the one who made contact. He was probably a little too late on the brakes, and unfortunately got sent out wide. So he'll fall off the rear of the field as there's still so much tight fighting going on in this field. Hector Aja has skipped away from this pack here, which is Stange, Cook, and Gaia. Our top 5 still as close together as they ever were.
Ward's dropped a fair way off the back end, but he's going to come back off to them. He's still in the toe. That's the key factor. Now it's really difficult to get the car lined up and be perfectly accurate through the bus stop. You see Mitch McLeod actually lost a lot of momentum in the middle of the corners as well. Devantier's got an opportunity there. So Devantier's carrying a lot of pace through the center of that bus stop, and McLeod's just wasn't quite as strong. But this could also be a ploy to get the overspeed.
Yeah, certainly could. That's something you have to always think about. You hang back a bit, you can get a big run of overspeed. You just got to use that slingshot. If you're too close to a car coming out of a fast corner, you won't get the full benefit of the slipstream. But they all lift off coming to the start-finish line. That will bring Ward back into it a little bit. He is picking up a tiny bit of slipstream. It just seems to be coming into the infield where he makes up the majority of his time. He seems to be a lot stronger through the twisties. Doesn't seem to quite be able to get the throttle on coming out of the most crucial corners on the lap.
Well, a counterpoint I'll actually give to you that on that one, Reese, is have a look at how much that lead pack boxed up towards the end of the start-finish straight, but they all stayed line astern. Normally, when you've got the overspeed, you go for the move. Instead, they all checked up. So what I think's actually happening is Declan's just barely managing to hang into the draft through the infield, just at the fringe of things, and then he stays there. Everyone else lifts out, and effectively he's maintaining pace with McMullen, who leads this pack because McMullen's got no draft. But he's got just a touch, and by the end of the straight, he gains 0.6 of a second in the first sector on Sam Devantier.
Yeah, it's an interesting race that Declan Ward is running here. Maybe he'll be a factor on the final lap of the race. That's what I think's really going on here, is that this lead pack, they're not going for the big moves because they know that otherwise they'll be fragmented. And if you end up getting fragmented into a second pack behind the top 2, then your chances for victory will almost be gone. Basically, what I think they're doing is they're waiting for the last available opportunities here. Maybe coming to the line, coming to the white flag, and then through this section on the final lap, that's when we're going to really start seeing drivers making their moves.
I think it'd be one to go. I think if you're Matthew Brun or Mitch McLeod, you're happy with where you are. You won't be looking to make those moves. I think we're going to be about 9 minutes, close to 10 minutes. So we're going to have roughly 2 to 3 laps left to run. So what you're going to look for is, if you're coming to that white flag, I think you've got to pull the trigger then, particularly if you're the last 2 cars in this queue, Devantier, Ward, because you can't wait for that last lap. You're never going to get the job done on that last lap because everyone else is going to be making that job done. So they're going to get to second, got to get to third before that point. Aha's going to come under a little bit of pressure as they go down the start-finish straight as well. And Christopher Strange is going to try and finally, hopefully, possibly, maybe complete this move. Does get the move done.
Does indeed. Into turn 1, meanwhile, Marcus Cook up behind the DeWalt car of Hector Tabarez. Aha is facing a lot of trouble. Mark Taylor, who is still carrying the damage from the lap 1 incident, almost gets into the side of him on the way into the International Horseshoe, but it is defended from the number 16. Over-under, though, for Mark Taylor. And this is one of the places where the over-under actually works on this layout, because the next corner is a right-hander. Taylor will have the inside for that turn, and he'll try to get the position. But indeed, it's well raced between the two of them. Maybe a little bit of contact. Taylor has to recover, and Cullen will go on his way through as well.
Well done by both drivers, though. Room offered, room given. Very, very clean. There was no contact there. I think Taylor just got a touch too wide, picked up the grass, rear end, come around a little bit. But you can see what I mean. It's all about balance. And with that first gear rotation, you can overstep the mark in terms of things right there. Now it's going to be who's in the spot.
Oh, no!
And Cook makes contact.
Yeah, that's going to be Michael Cullen getting spun around there, and he probably won't be too happy with how that went down. We'll turn our attention back to the top 5 meanwhile. Still got Declan Ward hanging onto the back of this, but right on board with Sam Devantier, and you can see he's just giving little bumps as they all catch up to Marlon McMullen. McLeod is going to be the first one to pull the trigger here with 3 minutes and 20 seconds on the clock. He's going to try and go for the lead. They are 2 by 2 coming into the first corner. McMullen will have the inside, and McLeod has to back out of it mid-corner. He just couldn't hold on to the speed. Sam Devantier is going to actually make the move on McLeod there. Mitch might fall to the back of the whole train.
Yeah, because here comes Ward as well. Now they're all starting to feed out 2 by 2 as they get down to the horseshoe. Brunt's having to defend from Devantier, tries the long way around. Curb doesn't help him out in terms of momentum. But the other side of things is, remember, McLeod's weak spot is the bus stop. He's carrying no momentum off the bus stop whatsoever. I've stopped thinking it's a ploy. He's just downright weak through the bus stop, and that's presenting everyone else an opportunity. For Devantier, he was pushing McLeod the whole way down the front straight. It was working for both of them in terms of that momentum, in terms of opportunity. And Devantier was just biding his time, just being a little bit smart, a little bit cautious. Well, if you're McLeod, you have to go this time. I think the whole pack, all of this kindliness, it's got to go out the window right now. Now it's for each spot in this train because it's so critical to time yourself. Think about Sebring from last week. It was about putting yourself in the right spot at the right time. Ended up in a little bit too much aggression, but it was setting yourself up to try and win the race.
Yeah, setup is the name of the game at Daytona International Speedway. Coming into the bus stop now for what we're thinking is the second last time. Should be white flag this time around. So McLeod played his card early. Remember, got to keep an eye out for him in the Carlton draft car here behind Sam Devantier. He's probably in one of the best positions to take advantage as Brunt has a good run on McMullen here. Is he going to lift out this time? No, he's not. He's going to make it side by side and carry that momentum to the start-finish line. But for himself and Devantier, this could be the wrong move as the white flag flies. McMullen now is in the box seat to draft back past them on the way out of the bus stop. We've still got to keep an eye on the 2 spanners in the works as well, Mitch McLeod and Declan Ward.
Yeah, Ward had another go. Again, Ward's got to have a go because I think it's too much ground to catch back up, and he's, again, just the same as Mitch McLeod, just too weak coming off the bus stop. Best bus stop that last time by for Mitch McLeod. So whatever the problem was, he's fixed it. He's found something. He's come back a little bit to them. But again, didn't manage to get the positioning. And I was talking, watch Brunt. I think Brunt's got this. If he's smart, if he's wise about how he defends this and how he sets it up, best thing he can do is when he comes off the bus stop, he's got to make sure that McMullen is on his bumper. So he actually wants to back all of these guys up, slow them down a little bit tactically, because then they can't get the overspeed.
Well, McMullen's got the inside for the hairpin. Brunt went a little too hard through the second part of the chicane. Meanwhile, McLeod has secured the position over Devantier. So that's two big changes there in the top 5 on the run to the start-finish line. 30 seconds and less, but more than that remaining on the clock here. This is going to be the run to the finish here. All they got to do is negotiate the bus stop one more time, and then it's flat out to the line. Devantier staying out of the draft. He's trying to set himself up for the run to the line. Get on the power as quickly as you can. McMullen has so much space between himself and Matthew Brunt here. I think he might have played this pretty well. We'll see.
I just wonder from Brunt, was this intentional? Because now the speed's picking up, margin's down. It's 4.5 tenths of a second. It's a huge, huge margin, but the momentum's still coming. The momentum's still coming. He's going to have an immense amount of overspeed when he gets there. How late? How much do you block? Where do you cover?
Where do you cover, indeed? Run to the line, and I don't think Brunt's going to have enough here. He's hit the wall. Oh, maybe he will. Oh, so close at the line. It is McMullen by 11 thousandths of a second.
And Mitch McLeod nearly nicked second. If McLeod was there 20 feet earlier, he would have nicked second.
Yeah. Oh, man. Looks like a poor run, meanwhile, for the DeWalt entry here. It's very unfortunate for Hector, Aha, Selby Wood, and Cullen, meanwhile, will make their way through. I saw some heavy damage for Marcus Cook, meanwhile. Looks like his front bumper is hanging off. This is the run to the line between Selby Wood and Cullen. And oh, that's not the first time Selby Wood's made contact with a car in the oval section. Oh, yeah, they're going to get by Marcus Cook, who blocks them. And they go for a huge crash. Cook now
and
on his roof.
I think Selby Wood got
me.
DQ'd for incident point limit.
Yeah, I think he did. Man, that's... I don't really know what Marcus Cook was thinking there. I mean, he was already damaged, already way down on speed. He had 2 cars coming up on him. And it looked like he just moved to block them as they tried to come through. This is a replay of the run to the line for the leaders. We're going to see just how close the margin was at the line. McMullen down on the apron, as is McLeod, with Matthew Brunt and Sam Devantier trying to make it to the lead there. That's all that's in it. It's a front bumper.
And I'm just curious, because Mitch McLeod did give a shot to McMullen. It was just before he hit the finish line. I don't think Brunt would have got it, but I think the margin would have been about 5 thousandths of a second without that shot. That's how much was in it. It was worth in that realm of about 5 to 7 thousandths, I think. Yeah,
that's pretty crazy. Well, the results screen tells it all. Only 7 hundredths of a second covering the top 3. That really is incredible. McMullen, Brunt, and McLeod are your podium. Devantier and Ward rounding out the top 5. Christopher Stange is going to make his way from 9th to 6th. Martin Gaia, meanwhile, from 13th all the way up to 7th. Brilliant job. Hector Aha and Harvey Pera are going to finish 8th and 9th, separated by about 8 seconds. And then another 4 seconds back to Peter Vanderberg, who rounds out the top 10. Bradley Minshall, meanwhile, started 15th, had a lot of dramas, couldn't make his way any further forward than 11th. Michael Cullen started in the top 10, has to settle for 12th. Mark Taylor, his race went wrong right at the first corner, has to settle for 13th and last on the lead lap. Marcus Cook, unfortunately, retiring on the run to the line on his roof. Brett Selby Wood disqualified for incident limit reaching right there. Can't find the words. Max Walton, unfortunately, 5 laps down from the end. So this is Marcus Cook here. He has his bumper hanging off, and you see that he moves to block them. Yeah, but I don't think he realized that there was still overlap between Selby Wood and the car next to him. Maybe he didn't even realize there were 2 cars full stop.
Doesn't even make the. I mean, yeah, that's a risky maneuver. But these cars next week at Long Beach, that's a recipe.
Oh.
I don't know. It could be a recipe for master. It could be a recipe for disaster because we saw, the rear end of these cars getting away. That's what I'm probably going to be spending a fair bit of time running next week. By the way, so that should be awesome.
I look forward to hearing your insights, Scott. It's certainly going to be a fun night here on Thursday, the 2nd of May. Once again at 7:20 Australian Eastern Standard Time, right here on SimSpeed TV on YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, and Kick. Thanks very much for tuning in. If you've been watching live and if you've been watching video on demand, we appreciate you giving us a replay as well. Make sure to subscribe and follow us on all of our socials. We're on Facebook. We're on the platform formerly known as Twitter as well. I'm Reese Gardner, Scott Rankin with me in the comms box, Jay Kennedy handling production behind the scenes. The night is not done on SimSpeed TV. In just around half an hour's time, we're going to be going for V8 Veterans action, so stay with us for that.